Hello! I want to start off by introducing myself. My name is Shauna Young, and I'm a student at Alma College. I'm majoring in educational studies with an emphasis on early childhood, or an emphasis on young children, and my hometown is Jonesville, Michigan. Right now we're going to start off with criteria and reference tests. What these are their assessments and tests that are designed, they're based off of criteria or standards. Google has defined them as a measurement of student performance against a fixed set of predetermined criteria or learning standards. They are concise, written descriptions of what students are expected to know and be able to do at a specific stage of their education. Formative assessments are the little quizzes and tests that you give to your students before a standardized test or a bigger test. Google defines this as including diagnostic testing. It is a range of formal and informal assessment procedures employed by teachers during the learning process in order to modify teaching and learning activities to improve student attainment. Next is summative assessment. Summative assessment those are the big assessments. So Google has defined this as refers to the assessment of participants where the focus is on the outcome of a program, in contrast to formative assessment, which summarizes their development at a particular time. Triangulation. This refers to the use of more than one approach to the investigation of a research question in order to enhance confidence in the ensuing findings. Since much social research is founded on the use of single research methods, and as such may refer from limitations associated with that method or from the specific application of it, triangulation offers the prospect of enhanced confidence. Triangulation is one of the several rationales for multi-method research. This term derives from surveying, where it refers to the use of a series of triangles to map out an area. The procedure to the Brigance math grade placement. So this picture right here is what a teacher would have, and then this is what a student would see. So going back, the teacher would read this to themselves. And so right now, if we look at the scoring information, we can see that for an accuracy, they need to get 16 out of 20 to get them right. They would need a 16 out of 20 in order to have mastery in solving second grade mathematics problems. So this is just a second grade placement test right now. So now this is over on the right hand side. This is directions. So you would give a student a copy of this page, and then we would say to the student, write the hundreds, tens, and ones in each number. So on this number 1, we would need to write the hundreds, tens, and ones for each number, and you would point that out to them. Now next you would write greater than and less than for the student on their paper, and point to section 2 to the symbols and say, use the symbols for greater than and less than to compare each pair of numbers. So down here on section 2, we would do that. And as you can see at the bottom, I wrote greater than and less than for the student. Next, you would say, point to section 3 and say, find each sum or difference. So on section 3, we would point and say, find each sum or difference, and then the student would be able to answer the questions. And on section 4, we would point to section 4 and say, write the missing number for each pattern. So there, the student had done that. For section 5, give the student 2 different items to measure, such as pencil, a stapler, or a comb. Decide if the student to measure the length in inches or centimeters and provide the appropriate ruler. So then you would tell them to estimate the length of each object in inches or centimeters. Then measure each object to the nearest inch or centimeters. Record the estimates and measure in the chart. So I gave the student a colored pencil and a phone, and the student measured each one in inches. For section 6, you would point to section 6 and say, draw lines to divide each figure into the given shapes. And there you can see the student did this. Now we can see by looking at the student's version that they missed B and D on section 2. So since they only missed 2, we can say that they did have accuracy. That this indicates mastery of solving 2nd grade mathematics problems since they only missed 2. That means they got over 80%. Okay, now this is triangulating data for the student that I have been working with. In September, the student struggled with fractions as well as less than, greater than, and equal to. The student was able to add and subtract 2-digit numbers and able to find missing number and certain patterns. So pretty much over in this left-hand side, this is the formative and summative assessment area for September, January, and May. Over on the right-hand side is teacher observation and reports. And then down on the bottom, we have the Brigance math and what they got and what the student got in September, January, and May for math and reading. Down at the very bottom are the 2 goals. So the math goal is by May 31st, 2016, the student will complete math problems at the 5th grade level as measured by the Brigance. Reading goal was by May 31st, 2016, the student will read at the upper 8th grade level as measured by the Brigance. The results in planning instruction. So these results help planning instruction for the students because it shows the progress of the student. For this triangulating data shows the progress for the student. It shows what the student needs to work on. It shows what the strengths are that the student has and what the student's goals are. So when planning instruction for the student, you can see the progress that they have had and what their strengths are and what they really need to work on. So this triangulating data gives good feedback for what you should focus on in planning your instruction. And then here is a lesson that's showing individualized instruction.
Alright guys, let's go stand on our heads. We're going to learn fractions and we're all going to stand on our heads. That means you, Shauna, and you, Ashton, you're going to stand on your heads. And if you don't want to, then you can go find Ashley and make her stand on her head. So each of you are going to stand on your heads, which means each of you are going to learn how to divide fractions. Remember, to multiply fractions, you go straight across the top. So straight across the top and straight across the bottom. Alright kids, we're moving on. So dividing fractions is simple as pie. What we're going to do is we're going to flip the second and multiply. So we're going to multiply and flip the second. And then we go, just like we did before, straight across the top and straight across the bottom. And that's going to equal Alright, now we got to reduce it. So we're going to go by 2s, by 3s, by 5s. So this time is going to be by a 2. So we're going to go 1/4. That's going to be your final answer. Everybody say it with me now. Dividing fractions is easy as pie. Flip the second and multiply. Now try this on your own. Remember to do this. We're going to, so dividing fractions is easy as pie. You flip the second and you multiply. 3 times 3 is 9. 5 times 1 is 5.
Okay. So that is a lesson that you could use. Let me get back to this. So that's a lesson that you could use for individualized instruction. Here you could have, you could make multiple videos and have each student have their own video. It's a great way to differentiate instruction and get get the lesson on everybody's level. So the next is instructing a child with a learning disability in math and reading. So according to research, what some things that we could do is that, like, okay, so learning disabilities affect reading, most of the time affect reading skills. Not all the time, but most of the time they affect reading skills. So what we can use is we can use accommodations and modifications on tests, on quizzes, on different things, that assignments that we give to the student. We can also, this is how response intervention came about. So we want to try to fix the student as early, not fix the student, but we want to get the student, we want to find the student's needs as early as possible. So we need some early intervention, and this is the reason for early testing, because you want to pick out if the student has a learning disability or not early, and not wait till later, because the more that you wait, the more that the student struggles. The next thing that we find with research is teaching the basic fundamentals of both reading and math. So not going into all the trigonometry and all that stuff, but teaching the basic fundamentals that the student will need for daily living. For my placement students that I've been working with, some students have been affected by some have affected their reading and math skills with their learning disabilities, but others haven't. And you can see that on the Brigance test when I gave that to them. So, in my conclusion, what I've learned through this process is that assessments are important for knowing students' progress and what areas they need to work on. They're a good way to know where the student's at, and what they might know, what you might have taught them, but they might not know it yet. I have also learned how to give the Brigance math grade placement assessment and the reading comprehension assessment, which I think is a strong thing to know how to use. Like, it's good practice. It's a good way to know, because I'm going to be dealing with this kind of stuff in my career. I have also learned what the true definitions of formative and summative assessments are. Before, it wasn't something that I paid attention to, or I really didn't know the definition of it, but throughout this process, I have definitely learned the definitions for them. That is all.